So here at Railroads University, we always kick off our presentations with recognizing the traditional lands. So Royal Roads University acknowledges that our campus is located on the traditional lands of the Lekwungen and Kosepsum ancestors and families. It's with great gratitude that we live, learn, and work here, where the past, present, and future scopes of Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, staff, and faculty come together. This is a great time to test out that chat box. So again, if you head to that black bar, give the chat button a click, the chat box should appear. Let us know, where in the world are you joining us from today? And if you are aware of your traditional lands, feel free to pop that in as well, or take this as an opportunity to learn more about the space you're occupying today. So while our introductions come in, let's remind ourselves why we're here today. Well, we are here to explore Royal Roads' relatively new graduate certificate in Strategic Enrolment Management. My name is Selena Kunar, and I'm an education specialist here on campus, and I am so excited to learn more about this program. And we are doing so today with Dr. Russ Wilde, who is the program head of our Master of Arts in Higher Education Administration Leadership Program. So a big hello and thank you, Russ, to being here today.
Thank you very much, Selena. I'm thrilled to be here.
So we'll talk with Russ in just a few more slides. So speaking of today's session, we're going to take a quick spin through the Royal Roads University experience. Of course, talk about the program itself, leave time to run through the admission and application processes, and of course, time for questions and conversations as well. So this is where that chat box becomes handy once again. Throughout our session today, anytime a question or a comment comes to you, please feel free to pop it in our chat box and we'll move through that together towards the end of the session. So with that, let's take a peek at Royal Roads University. So on this slide, we have a quick snapshot of what our beautiful campus looks like here in Victoria, BC. Given that we are located in Victoria, our weather is relatively mild compared to the rest of Canada. So we're very lucky that most of the year our campus looks like this. So while you take a glance at all of the different images we have posted here, let me tell you a little bit about Royal Roads. Well, Royal Roads is a university where professors know your name. Here we've maintained small classes and a conversational way of teaching. When professors are your peers, classes become think tanks and learning becomes a way of life. You'll notice very quickly we are not about one-sided lectures or note-taking. We're not about one right answer to that one set of questions. We're about engaging conversations and open dialogue. We're about exploring theories and sharing different perspectives. At Royal Roads, we're really proud that the learning we provide is based on your life. So your education doesn't just shape your experiences, but your experiences are going to shape the education you get here at Royal Roads University. Being a university for working professionals means that our students can bring real challenges from their workplace into our classrooms. Here, we don't have theory and practical application. We do real world problem solving in real time. We're able to do that because our professors are what we call scholar practitioners. So folks who are not only academic experts in the field, but who are out in the world putting into practice what they bring into our classrooms. We're really lucky that at Royal Roads, you're not only learning from leaders, but alongside them as well. And that comes back to our flexible admissions model, which we'll touch on more in a few slides. But in short, our flexible admissions model allows us to curate intentional and mindfully designed cohorts to bring together learners from a variety of different backgrounds, professional, personal, and academic experiences to create networks of perspectives and learners that will challenge and complement your own ways of thinking. What's really cool is that these cohorts that start as supportive learning environments, supportive classmates blossom into a professional network upon graduation. For our higher education programs in particular, this is so powerful because upon graduation, you then have a network of professionals all across North America working in various colleges, universities, or post-secondary sectors who remain forever connected to you. What's really cool is when alumni excitedly share that their WhatsApp chats, their Facebook groups, they're still alive and blossoming with conversation. Alumni that share that they're in their current job because a classmate shared that there was an opportunity opening up at their university and they applied. Um, your cohort truly is are folks that start the program with you, but continue on with you far past graduation. Rural Roads, we pioneered this blended learning model, which allows online learning and on-campus learning experiences to come together. And the reason we did that is because we believe that a good education should transcend location. So while we have this beautiful campus, let's talk about what online learning looks like. So at Rural Roads, it's important that we emphasize that online learning isn't what's typically thought of as correspondence learning. So for some folks who've experienced correspondence learning, that's when you're mailed a package of work, you complete everything and you mail it back for marking. At Rural Roads, that's not quite our style. So even in our online learning environments, you can expect to be engaging every day with your cohort, with your classmates, with your faculty. And on the slide, you can see a variety of ways that we do that. So of course, things like discussion posts, reflective activities, readings, feedback. But what's also important to us that we're still engaging in that teamwork because that's what's reflective of what's happening in our professional worlds in real time. So you can expect team activities, team assignments, where you're bringing in that real life experience. And we'll talk a little bit more about what online learning looks like in this program in a few slides. So with that, I will pass the baton over to Russ to tell us more about the program itself.
I would be happy to. Thanks so much, Selena. So a little bit about the program structure. Next slide, please. I want to just give you a quick overview of the whole higher education administration and leadership program suite of courses. There's they all relate to each other, and credit in the various courses can be applied to some of the other short and longer programs that we have. The largest program that we have in the suite is the Master of Arts in Higher Education Administration and Leadership, lovingly called MAHEAL. And that's the full 2-year program. We have within that some embedded graduate certificates that are made up of smaller parts of that larger program. So the grad diploma in higher ed, admin and leadership, the grad certificate in business development in international education, and the graduate certificate in systems leadership. All of those graduate certificates and diplomas are made up of courses that are found within the Master of Arts program. The graduate certificate in Strategic Enrolment Management is just a little bit different. It includes one course that is from the larger MAHEAL suite of courses, but it also includes 2 new courses or relatively new courses that have been developed specifically for this graduate certificate. Next slide, please. So, as I'm thinking many of the folks in the session today are aware, strategic enrollment management is a process that has become more and more important to higher education institutions over the last couple of decades. It really had its start in the late-ish 1970s in the United States, but over the last 2 decades or so, it has really become important across North America. And it really is the whole life cycle, the planning of the life cycle of student enrollment management from the time students might just be prospective students who are inquiring about a program, all the way through their journey through the institution, through graduation, and increasingly through the alumni stage. So it's really developing plans for managing enrollment at institutions that allow the maximum effectiveness, efficiency, and the best experience possible for students as they move through that program, and the most efficiency possible for the institution, since increasingly higher ed institutions need to demonstrate and genuinely offer great value to all their stakeholders, whether students, government, or other. Next slide, please. So there are a number of learning outcomes in the program, and I'll just highlight a couple of them, but they're here for you to read as well. I think that the most important thing I want to emphasize about the learning outcomes of the program are that they're very practical. And I'll talk about the specific courses in a slide or two, but the specific strategic enrollment management courses focus on the theory of strategic enrollment management, but then take that to a very practical place where you'll build an actual draft plan for an institution and actually use the knowledge that you've gained to create a very practical plan for strategic enrollment management at either at your institution or based on a hypothetical model of an institution. So it really is designed to get you to a place where you can actually apply these different principles of SEM to create an actual plan, to get you to that stage where you can plan for strategic enrollment management. And these are the various learning outcomes that get you to that goal. Next slide, please. So the program schedule, it's 3 courses, 9 credits, takes 6 months to complete. This program is delivered completely online. I will note, you'll see in the graphic on this slide, there are 2 courses listed above the 3 main courses. That's our courses that are used to onboard new students. We're very aware that it takes a little bit of orientation to make sure you know how to use all the right systems, make sure you can contact all the right people, know all the policies and procedures. So we take some time up at the beginning to make sure everyone's starting from the same page. We have a great experience together, and we call that the link. But then the main courses start in August, end of August. The first one, HEAL 550, is Systems Thinking and Strategic Planning in Higher Education. That course is shared with the master's students. It is an excellent course. It's the 3rd course that the master's students take. Absolutely foundational to thinking about how systems work in higher education. And that will set a great baseline for you as you prepare to then think about the specific systems involved in SEM. So then you move on to HEAL 580 and 585. Those are our 2 specifically designed strategic enrollment management courses. So the first one, 580, Theory and Practice, sets the stage, gets you to the level of knowledge you need. And then 585 is really focused on practical skill building for developing strategic enrollment management plans based on that knowledge. So those are tightly aligned and they need to be taken together. I do want to note that those courses were developed with one of the leading Canadian experts in SEM, Dr. Clayton Smith. He's also the instructor for those courses right now. Of course, instructor assignments can change, but right now he is the instructor and is a true expert and developed the courses. They are excellent. Next slide, please. Oh, and I've really basically already talked about this. These are the 3 courses. So next slide. I think that's my part. So I get to hand it back to Selena.
Back over to me. Well, thank you so much, Russ, for telling us a little bit more about the program. Recognizing we have a variety of folks in this room coming from a variety of different places within higher education. If you're thinking about, how does this apply to me and my role? Or if you want to learn more about what we're learning or what the actual delivery of the program looks like, pop all your questions in the chat box. This is a great time to get connected and to allow us to provide you with a little bit more information. So while you're thinking on more questions about our program, let's talk a little bit about our admissions and application. So as I mentioned, we have two different admission pathways here at Royal Roads University. That said, before I dive into them, I'll share that the actual application process that we'll go through on the next slide, from a user's perspective, is identical. So when we're going over through the different admissions processes, don't worry about, what form is for which, how do I do which one? The actual way you complete the form is exactly the same. And that's because here at Royal Roads, we value academic experience and that professional and personal experience as well. So let's dive into what these actually look like. So kicking us off, we have our standard admissions. Standard admissions requires a 4-year or comparable undergraduate degree from a recognized post-secondary institution, as well as a minimum of 3 years of relevant paid work experience within a recognized higher education institute, including some leadership experience. And you'll note we have that asterisk there. And that's because if you were to navigate to our website, we have a wonderfully broad definition of what leadership looks like. So when we say leadership, we don't necessarily mean positional leadership, where you must be a manager, a director. Um, we look at leadership as, are you helping move forward a shared goal? Are you in a role where you're consulting, negotiating, or managing diverse interest groups? Are you leading others? Are you influencing or organizing groups of people? So when you think of leadership, think about all the different ways that you're exuding leadership in your existing role, and check out if that aligns with what leadership looks like for us at Royal Roads University. So looking at flexible admissions. So flexible admissions are for those folks who may not have the traditional educational background, but who have been immersed in the field for many, many years. So for flexible admissions, we look for a minimum of 7 years of work experience in the higher education sector, including a minimum of 3 years of that leadership experience. I'll note that flexible admissions is assessed on a case-by-case basis, which means that if you have any questions about what flexible admissions could mean for you, connect with our offices, and we are always here to help. We're actually always here to help with the application process itself as well. So on the slide, you can see a quick run through of what's required within our application process. So as with most things today, it kicks off with an online application. That online application includes a fee of $128.21. And once that online application is in, we then look forward to receiving some supporting documents. So for this program, we're looking for things like official transcripts, personal statement, a structured resume, and 2 letters of reference. Again, our website is a wonderful resource to learn more about how you go about putting together or submitting these supporting documents. So for example, for your official transcripts, how do I get into the offices? What counts as official? For a personal statement, on our website, we have some wonderful guiding questions to help you understand what we'd like to know about you. So for example, what can you contribute to the class's learning? What do you anticipate will be your challenge as a graduate student in the GCSEM program? What do you expect from the GCSEM program in terms of the learning process? And the big one, what do you envision for your professional goals once you've completed this program? This helps us understand how the program can support you moving forward, but how you can support your cohort as a learner within the program. For the structured resume, our website has some wonderful tips and tricks as to how that resume can be structured to ensure all of your accomplishments shine bright, and then some more practical help for the 2 letters of reference. So, who should be your referees and how do they submit their letters to our offices? All things we answer on our website. Happy to go over today or via email or call in the future as well. So, looking at upcoming intakes, our next intake for this program begins August 15th, 2022, putting its application deadline at May 15th, 2022. If you're projecting forward, we also have our 2023 intake available with a start date of August 14th, 2023, putting its application deadline at May 14th, 2023. I'll note that here at Rural Roads University, we do something called rolling admissions. So we're not actually going to wait until May 15th, 2022 to look at all the applications that came in and then assess who's going to enter our program. At Rural Roads, if you meet the criteria outlined, you have a seat in our program. So once your online application is in, as well as your supporting documents, we're able to adjudicate your file and let you know about your seat in the program. So with this way of processing applications, our programs can fill up quickly. So if there is a date that works best for you, be sure to get that online application in, as that'll signal to us that you're interested in starting in 2022 or 2023. In preparation for today's webinar, we got a few questions around financial aid, and that is wonderful. At Rural Roads, we recognize that financial planning is a big part of your continued education. So our team of financial aid and awards specialists are here to help. They have their fingertips on resources available internally or externally to you to help fund this next stage in your education. So on the slide here, we have their website and direct phone lines and a few bullet points showcasing some of the things that they can help with. So for example, loans, awards, scholarships, and other types of funding as well. As with most universities, our financial aids office is underutilized. There are resources available to you. So we highly, highly recommend to just send off an email, give them a quick call, and learn more about what could be available for you in funding your future education. As you might have noticed in the chat box, Lisa is filling our conversations with helpful and handy links. And she is just a wonderful representative of the enrollment team we have here on our campus who are eager to help answer your questions about this program or any others on our campus. So you can connect with Lisa and her team at learn.more@ruralroads.ca. Or if you're joining us internationally, Lisa's counterparts in our international admissions and registration team would be more than happy to continue the conversation at learn.more.international@ruralroads.ca. So with that, we have finished the formal part of our presentation, but this is where the real fun starts, where we get to dive into your questions. So what I'm going to do is take a few clicks here to stop sharing my screen and pop up our chat box. I have a few little notifications here, so that lets me know there's been a lot of great conversations happening. So to kick us off from Sarah, we have a great question. Is our learning synchronous or asynchronous? Russ, did you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, be happy to. And I put a little note in for Sarah in the chat as well, but we use both synchronous and asynchronous, so it's a blended model. The courses are all available in an entirely asynchronous format, but we do hold synchronous sessions. It depends a little bit on the instructor, how many there are, but in general, we're doing them about every 2 weeks. So during a 9-week course, you would expect to have about 4 synchronous sessions. They're generally in one evening during a week. We do record them so that if you're not able to participate in the synchronous sessions, that's not a barrier to completing the course. Most students, however, having said that, have reported greatly enjoying and benefiting from the synchronous sessions. So we're having very, very high participation.
Amazing. Thanks, Russ. Our next question, which you have answered, but I'll read out loud for those folks who might not be able to view our chat box at the moment. So we had a great question from Courtney asking if we were interested in pursuing a master's program at RRU later on, would these credits transfer in or count towards it, i.e. our MAHEAL program or MA in interdisciplinary? And Russ, you shared wonderfully that our HEAL 550 course transfers into our Masters of Higher Education and Administration Leadership program. And at this time, the other courses do not transfer as they've been developed specifically for folks interested in exploring strategic enrollment management. And Lisa shared that all 9 of these credits can potentially be applied to our MA in interdisciplinary studies if you're interested. The next question we had here was Lynn sharing the 3-year requirement in higher ed. Is that at the time of applying or the start time of the program? Well, that is a great question, Lynn, and something I should have included when we were chatting about our admission requirements is that this program is open to what we call emerging leaders. So those folks who have fewer than 3 years of leadership experience, yet have been in recent leadership or people management roles for 2 or more years, who have demonstrated exceptional leadership potential through their professional and life experiences and are preparing for further leadership roles and otherwise meet the standard admission requirements are encouraged to apply. So I was reading that directly from our website to make sure we got you the correct information. So hopefully that helps. But Russ, was there anything you wanted to add about that regarding the 3 years of experience for this program?
All I would say is that like a lot of experience requirements, 3 years, we have to set a line somewhere, and 3 years seems to be about reasonable. That said, if someone applied who had 2.5 years of really relevant experience, I wouldn't think that disqualifies you. You'd still be looked at. What is important is having some significant experience in a higher ed setting. Otherwise, it's challenging to join the cohorts.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that again comes back to that real world learning in real time. A lot of our programs here at Rotos will ask you to pull from your personal, professional, and academic experiences. So to ensure that you're getting the most out of our learning, we have those types of requirements. The next question from Sarah, can tuition be paid in installments? And Lisa has provided an answer sharing upon acceptance, you'll be required to pay a $550 deposit to secure your seat in the program. And thereafter, you would be invoiced on the first of the month prior to each course starting. So in short, yes, payments are in installments, which is wonderful. The next question we have here, oh, a great one. Can we take one course instead of completing the program? And Lisa has shared that yes, some of these courses can be taken through general studies. And she's provided the link for how you can learn more about general studies at Rural Roads. Oh, another wonderful question. So are the majority of applicants on the West Coast? Myself in Nova Scotia. So wondering what evening means in terms of my time zone. Oh, great question.
Good
Over to
question.
you, Russ.
An excellent question. So we have students in the MAHEAL program all across Canada, all the way literally from coast to coast. There are more students who are in the Western provinces than the Eastern, but we have students from every province. So we generally run, and I'll speak for myself, I run my synchronous sessions starting at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So that makes them 8 p.m. Eastern time. And then for those in Atlantic, it is a little later, it's 9. That's the closest we've been able to get to a balance that lets people be finished work on the West Coast, but not so outrageously late as to be impossible on the East Coast. It's worked mostly quite well, but if you're in the Atlantic provinces, it's a little bit later.
Great question and such a thoughtful answer. Thanks, Russ. We have a question here around, is this program for folks who are already elbows deep in strategic enrollment management, or is it for people who are wanting to break into helping inform that on their campuses? So I'll pass that over to you, Russ.
I would say, and we had a little discussion about this even before the session started, it will, the courses have been designed so that they can work for people in both situations and in between. And there are folks who are in the cohort right now who are earlier in their career, and there are also some folks who are later, much later. In fact, one of the people in the current cohort is either vice president or associate vice president at a college in charge of, with responsibility for strategic enrollment management. It's actually been a great mix because, as Selena talked about earlier in the presentation, we really do use a cohort model, and you get to learn from each other. And that means that people earlier in their careers have an opportunity to learn from people later in their careers. But people later in their careers also get an opportunity to learn some of the challenges that are occurring for people really close to the operations level. So it actually works quite well for people in all kind of levels of experience, and has been designed specifically knowing that that would be the case.
Absolutely. I was fortunate during my program at Rural Roads to be able to pop into one of the higher education administration leadership programs, and was just shocked at the cohort. I myself, of course, work in education student recruitment, but I don't think there was a member of my cohort that had the same job or worked in the same department. I was alongside folks from athletics, registrar, purchasing, um, almost every department you can think of, and working together on an assignment. Coming from our lens and our department, it was so interesting to see the gaps I had missed from solely looking at it as someone who works from branding, marketing, and recruitment. So that cohort model was extremely powerful for my experience in these classrooms. And speaking of our classrooms, Russ, a question we get often with this program is how many hours a week should I be putting aside for my learning? Now that's the $1,000,000 question, but how much of that time of my time will this take?
You know, I'll do my very best to answer that. It is going to vary a lot depending on your own kind of skill level and sort of academic experience, but also, you know, heavily on how much exposure you've already had to some of the content in your professional roles. And so people's experience varies widely. That said, I think that if you thought in the range of 10 hours per week, that would be a reasonably good guideline. For some, it may be a little more, but I think thinking about 10 hours a week is probably at least a good range.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we've come to the end of our questions that have showed up in the chat box. So I'll share this as a last call for questions while we explore another one that usually comes up. Teamwork. Am I going to be working with others? What does that look like in this program? Can you tell us a little bit about teamwork?
Absolutely. Royal Roads programs are built with teamwork as a core principle. So yes, we always have at least one project in every course, sometimes two, where you will be working with a team. Teams are sometimes assigned, sometimes they're self-assigned, but there will always be some teamwork. And really that's very much with to go to the specific outcome of mirroring the real professional world where we all work in teams.
Thanks, Russ. So with that, I think we've come to the end of our our conversation today, but not the end of our conversation and in this time. We're all always here to continue to keep chatting and share more about our Strategic Enrollment Management program. In the coming weeks, we do have a webinar where we're actually going to touch quickly on our Master of Arts in Higher Education Administration Leadership, its diploma program, and the two specializations within our Master's of Arts programs, which also can be taken as graduate certificates, similarly to the program we're talking about here. So if you're interested in learning more about the suite of higher education programs we have at Royal Roads, or how this certificate may differ than the systems leadership in higher education or our business of international education, join us. I'll be sure to share the link for that webinar in our follow-up communications. So before we sign off, Russ, was there anything more you'd like to share?
Only just that we welcome your application. It is a fantastic program, and we'd be excited to have you join us.
And we actually have a last question that is perfect for sending us all off. We have Sarah asking, is January/February a reasonable time frame for submitting application and anticipating there will be space? And Lisa has shared that once your application is complete, you can normally expect 4 to 6 weeks of time to pass before you hear back about your seat in the program. As it stands, there is still space in our 2022 intake. So get that online application in, and we can all work together to get those supporting documents in as well. So big thank you to everyone who has joined us today and asked such great questions. We look forward to chatting with you soon and wish you a wonderful rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, depending where in the world you're joining us from and when you're watching this recording as well. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks.